Hi there. Hi, everyone. Welcome to With Tracy Insta Live. And I'm delighted. Here she is. Jenny, hi.
Hello,
Oh, I
it's lovely
know.
to
It's so
see
lovely
you.
to
How
see
are
you. Do
you?
you know, it's nearly a year ago since we recorded the podcast. It was June.
It's just like, oh my goodness, I know. And I was thinking, gosh, so much has changed since then. When I was like looking back and kind of, hi Claire, I was looking back and thinking, gosh, I was like, where do I
Well,
start?
it was just wonderful to see your post recently about you actually completing your masters. And it just triggered me to think, oh, it would be brilliant just to have you on an Insta and update everyone. So, Jenny, what's been going on? Tell us.
Where should we start? I tell you what, let's start with the masters. Because that was, oh my goodness, like such an amazing experience. It was so hard. And me being me, I went into it thinking, well, how full-time can a full-time masters actually be, and how hard can it actually be? And turns out the answer is very hard and very full-time, but just so interesting to kind of go back to university after 20 years, and kind of I was thinking, am I going to be the oldest person in the room? Like, do I know how to study? And like the first time I had to do one of my assignments, it was like 5,000 words, and I was like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I was like, and I remember doing it and like working on it, and every day I'd be like, why is this not finished? Like, I'm still going, I still haven't finished. And but it was so good because I learned so much. Learned so much in the positive psychology space. It just links to kind of my background in communications before I started working for myself. That links into my coaching. There's so much I can bring in with my clients, and even the coaching psychology. Obviously, I trained as a coach previously, but that chance to dig into coaching psychology a bit more, to kind of look more at like group coaching and team coaching that I hadn't really experienced, in a professional environment before,
So I've got
was
to ask
amazing.
you though,
So
if we just go
yeah.
back a bit. So what actually triggered you to think that's what I'm going to do? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do this masters.
Well, honestly, it was because I think I saw a post on Instagram from someone who had done the masters, and this is how I actually work, because I'm very big into human design and kind of intuition, and I just went, oh my goodness, that sounds amazing. And I was very good. I didn't jump straight in. I went to the open evening and sort of asked lots of questions and things like that. And I thought, actually, this could be really interesting. From a kind of, regardless of where I take my career next, whether, I want to do more corporate work, whether I want, grow my business more, this is going to help. I'm going to really enjoy the experience. And, I'm a big believer in doing things that we're going to enjoy. Yeah, and I just thought I would go for it. And I remember at the time I was, when I got accepted, maybe like 6-9 months into building my business, and it was feeling really difficult, as you know, on those ups and downs. And I thought, I had an interview for a sort of interim role for maternity leave cover, and I remember thinking, well, if I take that, then I can't do the masters. What do I do? And I just went for the masters, and I think it was absolutely the right decision. It just gave me so much purpose and fulfillment last year.
Brilliant. And what an incredible achievement. Well done, you. So Jenny, then I need to ask you, so what's been happening with the business then? So you've been doing your masters, sounds like it's taken up quite a lot of your time. So what about the business front?
Yeah. So I guess the business has evolved a great deal, and it's quite interesting. As I said to you at the start, how full-time can a full-time masters be? Well, actually pretty full-time. And it took me a little while at the start to kind of figure that out, and I was like, oh, but I should be doing as much in my business as I was last year. And I actually had to be like, no, because you're now doing a whole extra bit. So I did quite a lot of work last year, kind of building my coaching practice, which was lovely, and coaching is such a nice thing that you can build around doing other things. But I very much felt maybe I'm slowing down a little bit in the business growth to then go forward once I have the masters. So I've come out now. I've been doing a little bit of consultancy. I've also been looking at some interim works, and my background is corporate communications. And actually, I found I kind of missed it after a couple of years out of corporate comms. So I'm going to looking to go back and do some interim work and balance that with the coaching business. And that to me is actually starting to feel really quite fulfilling, because I like lots going on and lots of
So should we just take this opportunity then to tell people exactly what your business is and, you know, the kind of work you do, and the people would really benefit from coming to you?
Yeah, sure. So the core of the work that I do is coaching. So I'm a leadership coach. I work with female leaders, mainly in corporates, tend to be kind of in their 40s and generally tend to be very good at what they do. And they tend to come to me for a few different reasons. One is around balancing the big demands of these big jobs with also having a life, and kind of how do you navigate that. I'm also great at helping people when they're starting new jobs. So when you are promoted or you're going into a new company, how do you land in a way that feels really good and authentic to you? Because sometimes we can go in and be like, you know, I've done this in the past, I need to prove how good I am. And it's like, no, you don't. You're very good. That's why they've hired you. How do we help you kind of really establish yourself and step in maybe at a higher level? And I've also been doing a lot of work, and I did my master's research on this around imposter syndrome, and helping people to tackle that. So that's the kind of coaching side. I also work in the communication space. So I've got 20 years of experience in corporate communications. So I've done consultancy around values and employee experience. I'm great at figuring out what your comms team should look like and your strategy. So I do all of that. And I also love doing talks as well. So I did a great talk on International Women's Day around imposter syndrome, and how I advise people to tackle it. So,
because that was a big buzzword a while ago, this whole thing about syndrome. And then it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be quite so out there. But yeah, I know women particularly, and I think some men as well, but women particularly, do still struggle with that. So it's, you know, do you get a lot of women coming to you about that?
Yeah, and it's really, it's really interesting because I did my research on imposter syndrome, and it's actually imposter phenomenon. I can never say it well. The syndrome makes it sound like
it does.
A sickness, right? Like there's something wrong with you. So I spoke to kind of 12 female leaders as part of my research, and I said, you know, tell me about your experience of imposter phenomenon. And it was amazing. Well, it was eye-opening actually, because so many of them were doing so incredibly well, that had stories to share around where they doubted themselves and thought, oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't be in this position, or maybe I'm here through luck. And actually that's like, I came away feeling a bit like, oh my goodness. And it helped me see how I doubted myself throughout my career. So I think it's one of those things, because there's lots in the media that says, you know, stop telling women they have imposter syndrome, right? Because it puts it all on the individual. It doesn't recognize, you know, the challenges that we have in, you know, the system and all of those things. But the reality is lots of people do feel a lot of self-doubt and don't necessarily feel like, you know, they feel like they're alone. So even recently I've been speaking to a client, and she was like, oh, and I said, you know, this is really normal to feel like this when you're doing something new. And she was like, oh, I thought it was just me. And I think there's power in just talking about it and kind of not trying to fix yourself, but being aware. You know, I definitely have an inner critic who will show up and be like, did you really do a good job on that? You know, and how do you kind of navigate that so you can show up in
you have
way,
such
really
great energy though, Jenny. I mean, it's kind of enthusiastic. I mean, you know what I mean? And you know, I don't mean that, but it's encouraging. I mean, you make me smile. So I'm sure that the people that you help must just feel so kind of like recharged, and you probably give them a huge amount of confidence, because so much of it is confidence, isn't it? You know, for all of us, you know.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And recognizing your value and what you bring to the table. And, you know, such a lot of the time, especially when we're in senior roles, we can kind of compare ourselves a little bit. And it's about, you know, what am I great at that maybe you're not? And what are you brilliant at that maybe I'm not? And how do we balance that out? And how do you appreciate
and I think
in
also, and I'm sure you talk to a lot of people, you know, that whole lockdown, you know, the pandemic, you know, even I know, and people always think of me as being, oh, you're outgoing, you're fine, you're confident. But seriously, I mean, you know, there were times it's taken almost longer, you know, it wasn't like straight after you just felt, oh, that's all right, everything's back to normal. It's almost like a year on, you're still thinking, oh, I don't know, like double thinking everything.
I Oh, I really resonate with that, and it's so interesting. I was kind of looking back at obviously our podcast episode when we recorded it, and I was thinking, I think we were like still wearing
Yeah.
masks and a little bit, you know, it took a while, and I think, yeah, exactly. I think for me, like, you know, and thank you for saying I have lots of energy. I think I do have lots of energy, and I really struggled when we first went into lockdown. I was still leading a team in corporate, and we had a sort of crisis response on our hands, and suddenly I was working at home in my living room, which and you know, it was survival mode. And I think for me, I'm a massive extrovert, and I love going out and seeing people and meeting people, but it has taken slow steps over the last year to be like, okay, come on, you can go out and do that. Go on, like, get out the door. It's fine. It's safe out there. So I really resonate with that. I think it's not just it's done. You can go out. You can do everything. You're kind of like, well, I'm kind of used to not going out and doing everything. Much as I miss that, I don't have
It is, yeah. I mean, definitely that has been for me, and I know other people I've spoken to. It's things that I would have done and not thought twice about them. I'm thinking about it and then sort of going, oh, do I really want to do that? Like, whereas before I would have just gone, yeah, like, so yeah, it's just been odd times. And so I think, I don't know, I find more and more now, maybe the work you do, and obviously I mentor people as well. And I think there is that thing where even for us, it's really nice to talk to somebody else and not feel like you're on your own, or just be able to voice like we're voicing now, like I'm sharing with you, and hopefully anyone else who's listening out there, you know, that I think a lot of us are feeling, I don't know, bit still coming out of it. It's still strange. It's left, you know, I read something recently and it was almost like it's left a shadow of something with us, which I know sounds a bit weird, but it's kind of has.
No, I can see that. Like I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, I remember when they were first locking down cities in China, and you look at the news and you think, oh my goodness, I cannot believe they're doing that. And then suddenly we were locked down. You're like, what's going on? And it was like, you know, so I think it had a massive impact on people in that space. And on a plus side, from my perspective, and it comes back to your point around and doing things now, before lockdown, I would have had my diary, my weekends booked up. I'd be seeing friends, I'd be doing things, I'd be away. I didn't often have time to kind of just go, okay, just going to and chill a bit of myself. So that was something that I tried to keep as a bit of a gift that came out of lockdown around, I know, last year doing my masters, it was kind of every other weekend, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So I didn't have a lot of spare time. So this year I've just purposely not really booked a lot in at my weekends, which is very unlike me, but actually just to give myself space so that I can be spontaneous, that I can do things and try things. So I've tried to kind of take the things from lockdown, so there were a few, not lots from my perspective, and bring that into my life now.
So listen, I'm absolutely thrilled for you, and I'm so pleased. But I do just want to ask you again, and I think you covered it at the beginning, but just explain a little bit how you feel now, completing your masters, how that's going to benefit your business.
Yeah. Gosh, yes. So a few things. One is actually the process of doing it was so enjoyable, but also a real challenge. And it's helped me see actually how you can build self-efficacy. So like, you know, I talked about my first assignment and I was like, how am I going to do this? Whereas to the end of the year when I was like, right, fine, I've got this. I know what I'm doing. So that's kind of reminded me of that kind of real being a beginner and having a growth mindset around it, which has been fantastic. A number of things, for example, so my research on imposter syndrome, I am working to get that published at the moment. It's really exciting and kind of scary. It's kind of, you know, a whole peer review process, but that's really, you know, a good opportunity for me to kind of share that more broadly with the world. And I did some qualitative research, lots of interviews, because actually the research I found was all data driven. I was like, how can you talk about imposter syndrome when you don't really dig into how people feel? So I'm excited about the doors that will open. And I've been sharing my thoughts with companies in talks and with my coaching clients as well. And then really just so much in the positive psychology space. So strengths and how I bring that into my coaching session, that kind of how you build joy into a day actually makes you so much better at the work that you do. So just really putting some scientific evidence behind my coaching and helping my clients to use that day to day. So it feels at this point that I've got avenues and opportunities, and I describe myself at the moment as being open to opportunities and open to kind of.
I love that, actually. I like that, saying I'm open. I'm open to any, the opportunities, let's just see what happens rather than trying to be very prescriptive, if you like.
Yeah, and I think for me, and probably around the time we were first talking, I was still very new in my business, and it was like this, and it's this, right? You just get better at navigating those waves. And I think I was very much, I'd stepped out of corporate and I'd attached my whole identity to my corporate career, and I was like, well, I must prove that my business works, or I have to go back. Whereas now I'm like, okay, no, I get this. I'm not proving that it works in the next 6 months. I'm here for the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever that looks like. And being open just helps me go, okay, let's see what comes. I was invited the other day to join a network of researchers from universities who are looking at imposter syndrome. And I was like, oh, I would never have dreamt of that.
Oh yeah, totally. I love that. Oh, please promise me you'll come and do maybe a fuller podcast and we'll just talk about that. I really love you to do that, because I just think it is a topic. As I say, it seemed to be kind of trendy for a while, but it's real and people are really feeling it. And and whatever we label it, it's that confidence, that double thinking, can I, should I, am I worthy of it kind of feeling. So I just think that's brilliant. And honest to God, Jenny, it's just so lovely having, I know it's only quick today, but having that catch up. So I will email you and well, let's do a proper podcast on it. Could you want to just remind everyone how they can get in touch with you or find you or follow you, Jenny?
Yeah, absolutely. So come and join me on Instagram. So hopefully you can see my handle on here, but it's Jeni_Carroll_coaching. Also pretty active on LinkedIn. So do come and say hello and connect with me. It's just Jeni Carroll. You can check out my website, which is www.jenicarroll.com. But yes, please say hi. Always happy to talk, always happy to share sort of insights. Brilliant. Like
well, look, everyone that's listening, I hop on every now and then with past guests or anyone out there that's got a bit of a story to tell on with Tracy, and do, and listen to the podcast. Listen to Jeni. Go on to With Tracy, listen to Jeni's podcast. It's great. She's, honest to God, you're just a great guest, and it really is worth a listen. Congratulations with everything, and it's just wonderful. And thank you so much for coming on today. And hopefully people will listen today, but this is going to be up there so people can log on and listen to it at a later date as well. So Jeni, we'll be in touch.
Amazing. I look forward to it, Tracy. Thank you so much for your support.
Well done. Thank you. Bye, Jeni.
See you later. Bye.